Hi, this is Everetts Watercolors. Welcome to my classroom. Today's broadcast is going to be pre-recorded. I have a conflict in schedule on Thursday this time, and what I'm going to do is this is pre-recorded, and I'm going to release it on Thursday morning, so you'll see it on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn, and you can see it there. And make your comments. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and to Facebook and also LinkedIn. Subscribe to my video and give me a like and give me some comments. One of the things I'm going to make sure you see is I'm going to be showing a new product, which is a watercolor canvas board. And I use that in the plein air demonstration. And the advantage of it is I can paint it on location. Then I can bring it back to the studio and I can make corrections on it very easily. I can take the paint off and repaint it back on, which is what I'll demonstrate. So it'll be like a two-part video. You're going to see me live on location. Then you'll see me in the studio making corrections to the painting. So I think you'll enjoy that. Okay, so I'll see you next week on Thursday at 2 o'clock. Okay, this is a reference photograph from the Waterway of the Sailboat. And here's my setup. Here I got my canvas board set up on my easel, and I'm starting to zone in on the point. And that noise you heard was the opening of the bridge there, that great bridge. And I thought I'll leave that on live so you can get a little appreciation of give you a little background here to what I'm seeing. This is a live operating waterway with a lot of boats going through here, so we're going to see some here in a few minutes. I'm starting out here with the painting of this sailboat, and I got my easel set up facing it there, and what I'm doing is I'm putting in the bottom of the painting. I started out with the bottom of the boat in the water because it's got a long, tall mast. So I want to do. I got my painting board in a vertical position or a portrait format, so I get the tall angles here. And now I picked up some green number 1 paint, and I'm moving around and picking up some of the trees in the background. There's a tall tree here on the right of my vision of my landscape or my composition here. So I'm going to zero in on the boat itself here in a few moments. So I'm putting in some of the background steps here with I got a round brush, a number 8 round brush, and I'm using a mixture of hooker's green and a little bit of ultramarine blue, and I'm also using green number 1, just a mixture of greens. And I'm putting in some of the dark colors of, well, I'm blocking in the trees now on the right hand side of the painting, which is going to be that taller tree on the right, and there'll be a couple trees on the left over there behind the boat. So I'm mixing in a light value, just blocking in the color and trying to block in the shape of that tree mass over there on the right. Oh, and also I'm going to be painting around. Now here comes a working boat. This is two barges end to end pushed by a tugboat, and that's quite a sight. I mean, I see them going through here quite often. And what always amazes me is how those helmsmen can steer those large barges and get them through the locks, because the locks is not that wide, just barely wide enough to bring the boats through. So this amazing seamanship we're seeing here, moving down the waterway. And meanwhile, I'm still painting in the trees. I wave to one of the operators over there, one of the deck hands on one of the boats, and there's a tugboat pushing behind. That's a real workhorse. So here I'm painting around the mask, the white mask of the boat. As you can see, I'm doing negative painting now with the green. So I'm doing some negative painting around the mask, and I'll be doing some negative painting around the boat itself also. So I'm going down, putting in, just blocking in the greenery. There's a lot of greenery over there, so I'm picking up a little bit of lights and darks, a little bit of mixture of ultramarine blue, a little bit of hooker's green, some green number 1. Now I'm painting down, and I'm keeping that mask, the white mask. I'm painting around that, negative painting around that shape. As I come down, you'll see me. I'm painting painting around part of the front of the fuselage here. Now there's a Jib Sail right there that I'm painting in right now with the ultramarine blue. I put some blue on my brush, and that's a Jib Sail on the front of the boat. I'm painting that in. It's under a cover. And now I'm moving up here to the middle of the mask, and I'm putting in the other mainsail, which is also covered with a blue covering. It's going to be, those are white sails, but they got them covered in a protective covering for storage while they're in port. While they're not under sail, they use the storage wrapping of their sail. So I'm blocking in just a basic shape here, at least the location. I'm getting basic sizes, basic location of the elements that I see here. I'm also doing here's some more negative painting with the green, getting the grass, that light green grass behind the boat. I'm putting in with the green number 1 with the round brush. And that pretty well defines the horizon line also. The top of that green right there is really almost where the horizon line is. And I'm also, there's negative painting around the sail. More negative painting around the mask. I'm blocking in these colors. I'm blocking in the green colors now just to get us started. I'll be going in a lot later with some more greens. I'm working around the mask, doing some negative painting around the shapes of the cabin there. The cabin is right behind the mask. Now on the stern of the boat, I'm also doing some negative painting here around the stern of the boat. Trying to get the shape and the size and so forth. And then filling in some of the green grass behind. I'm painting in a blue. There's a blue cover on the cabin. The cabin's got a blue cover which matches the blue of the sail bags, or I guess they call them sail bags. And here I'm putting a little bit of the reflection of the trees into the water. Well, painting the water reflections are pretty easy. Just taking the colors that shows above and vertically painting down the same color, and saving the whites there for the white of the boat color. And on the stern side, on the left, on the stern, painting and again the reflection of the grass behind the boat. Now here I'm putting in the rest of the reflection from the sky and from the background trees, and making sure I leave white space there for reflection of the sailboat. So this is the reflection of the sky and the water reflection off of the trees and the sky and so forth. Just capturing a shape there. So the boat shape and the reflection of the water are the two most important elements here in this part of the painting. Picking up a little darker green. I'm going around picking up on the edges over here on the left-hand side, the left side of those trees, taller trees over there behind us, behind the boat. They're in the background, but they're a little bit darker, a little bit darker color. And working around, I'm doing a negative painting around the mast of the ship. And negative painting, getting the shape of the trees, the foliage back there behind the mast. Blocking in those shapes with the light green colors. Now I'm putting in some more darker, because those dark trees in behind, in the background, are a lot darker. So pick up a little more darker green, with mixed in with a little bit of blue. Give me that dark green color. Now working on the edges and the sizes and shapes of those trees. Now moving over to the right, working on that tree shape on the right, which is much taller and much bigger tree, because it's forward and also it's kind of in the middle ground behind the sailboat. Now I got a gray mixture on my brush. It's a little bit of Payne's gray, and I'm painting in the form shape of the sailboat, which is a little light gray, which shows the little shadowing of the form of the boat. I got a little darker color on my brush now. I'm going to paint in those windows. So just putting in, actually, I'm getting location and size right now. This is strictly blocking in the shapes. I'll do a little more work back in the studio after I'm done here, but I'm getting the basic elements. I'm capturing some of the things that I see, location-wise and size. Also verifying the color and the values. There's small windows up in the cabin, the main cabin. There's some small windows up there, which I'm painting in right now. Now I got a little blue on just there's a main location where the helmsman would stand. It's kind of covered protection. Now I'm putting in dark colors now behind the boat, picking up some darker greens and blocking in the color. A lot of trees back there, different colors. There's probably 5 or 6 different shades of green. But I'm picking out, simplifying some of the shapes and picking out the most significant ones just to capture the element, capture the texture, the value, and the location of what it is. There's a small tree over here on the right-hand side, which I'll paint a little bit more later, but I'm kind of blocking in the base color right now, light green. There's a little stripe along the edge. Again, it's a form shadow on the top edge of the boat. Just kind of putting that in as a reference point. And the windows on this cover on over top of the cabin, it's a light gray. It's an observation. Looks like an observation platform they have just above the cabin. Now I'm blocking in some more of the greenery around the boat shape. And up here, I'm now going to put the sky in, using a little bit of Cerelean blue with the 3/4 inch flat brush. And the sky is not much going on today. It's just kind of a light blue with some clouds in the sky. But I'm just going to make it all one color. It's a light shade of blue. Not going to worry about the color shapes. I mean, about the cloud shapes or things like that. Just going to put in a light blue background color for the sky. And painting over the edge of the trees, merging that color. Here I'm doing negative painting around that white mask, because that white mask goes all the way up, actually beyond the edge of the painting. It's really a tall structure. Now here I'm using a rigger brush, and I'm lifting some of that color I just put on to save that white of the canvas where the mask is. So I'm just removing some of that paint I just put on. It's still wet, so picking it up with a rigger brush is very easy. Just a dry brush picking up the wet paint. Now going back and putting a little more darker greens on the right hand side. Hooker's green mixed in with a little bit of ultramarine blue to make it darker. I'm playing with the edges, putting more color into the main part of the tree, but also capturing some of the edges of the tree. So this whole process is a blocking in process of the major elements, major shapes. And I plan on doing some reworking a little bit, retouching it up in the studio. So after this demonstration here on location, I'll be taking you back to the studio, and I'll be reworking very, very quickly, reworking some parts of it to clean up some of the shapes, to finish off the painting. So here I'm really blocking it in and capturing the element, capturing the information I need to get started, to finish up the painting later on. And that's one of my main purposes of Plein Air, is to just capture the main elements, to get an idea of this really becomes a preliminary sketch here on the canvas board. But later on I can turn it into a finished painting by just cleaning up some of the elements and adding the detail. So here I'm adding in some more value here on the right, because those are dark trees there in the background. So I'm adding in those elements right now. And capturing the shape of that the tree background. Now here I'll go along the edge of the mask here. Now the green trees behind the mask makes that white mask really pop out. So here I'm painting around, doing negative painting around that mask with the dark green paint in the flat brush, using a flat brush. Sharp edge of the flat brush, move up against the mask, and then paint away. I'm working on the left side with the corner of the brush, doing the same thing, coming down the edge of that white mask, doing some negative painting. So that white mask is really the white of the canvas board at this point. So I'm painting around it. And I didn't do any pencil lines on this. And again, this is another one of just observing the shapes and the sizes, and painting exactly from my observation of what I see. which I've talked about before, about the observation skills, learning how to do negative painting and how to paint objects. Without a drawing first, just take the brush and paint the object as you see it, and use negative painting technique to paint around the light colors. Now working on that trees there behind the mast on the left side, using the corner of the brush. Gives me a lot of control, a lot of accuracy. I can be very precise with that corner of the brush, of a flat brush. Now moving down here, I'm painting some more of the darker colors behind the sailboat. A lot of greenery, so it's I'm trying to make them a little different sizes, different color variety, darks and lights. Dark against the light, light against the dark. Makes a very interesting shapes. Gives it an interesting background. So really the background become most of the work on this particular painting is working on the backgrounds, getting the shapes and getting the colors. And they don't have to be exact. They can be, again, I'm simplifying a lot of the shapes, just getting a feel for the size and the value and the location. And the most important thing about painting trees is to make a realistic shape. The edges are very important to make it look like a tree. To show the edge of the tree, showing leaves, part of the limbs hanging out. I'll change the color again, a little lighter color now above the sail. So I'm working light against dark here. I got the light color green against the dark wrapping of that sail, which is a dark blue. So I'm taking advantage of the dark against light right here to make that silhouette of the sailboat stand out. Using the light against dark at this point. And you'll notice that is not what I'm actually looking at, but I'm using my artistic license here, using a lighter color behind that dark color to have it stand out. Working some more on the greenery on the trees on the right. Adding a little bit of lighter green in here because there's a little bit of sunlight hitting that branches. Some of them are lighter than others. Still working on edges, still working on a little texture in the tree, putting out more color in there. Now adding a little more green, and intensify the green of the grass, because that green grass is really green back there. So I'm trying to increase the intensity of the green behind the sailboat to match the green that I see. And off to the left, the same green grass behind the stern of the sailboat, going all the way up to the horizon line. Here now I'm putting in a dark blue shadow, using ultramarine blue, a dark blue shadow underneath the sailboat. That's the shadow on the boat and also into the water, and also a little bit of reflection into the water. So that defines the bottom edge of the sailboat in the water. I'm working on this. There's a little tree over here on the right hand side, right in front of the sailboat, just right behind it. So I'm working a little bit more on this little small tree that's right here. The color is a little lighter. I got a little more texture here, separated from that big tree behind. It's actually a crepe myrtle. It's a crepe myrtle tree, so it's got green. I'm going to leave the pink and red out of it. I'm just going to put in the green shape of that tree. I'm using the shape of that tree. It's a small tree right in front of the sailboat. So it gives me a chance to put in a lighter color in front of that dark tree behind. Now I'm putting a little bit of darks in there to emphasize the difference between that dark tree that's behind that lighter, smaller tree in the front. So I'm using a little bit of contrast here between the two trees locations. Okay, now I'm going to paint in the last step I'm going to do here on location. I'm going to paint in the small trunks of this small tree right here in front of the boat. So just a couple brush strokes here with a round brush with burnt sienna and ultramarine blue color, and a round brush, number 8 round brush, painting in that. So this will be finishing up this tour right now, to be continued back in the studio. Okay, this is a picture I took at the locks of the boat I was painting. This is a sailboat at the Waterway. And I brought it back here in the studio. Here's the painting I finished at the Waterway. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some touch up here. Do some touch up on this canvas. And this white canvas is pretty easy to use. For example, I want to, I can take off the water very easily just by re-wetting the section and taking a damp brush and remove the paint. Yeah, I have to wet it and move it, remove the paint. Then I take a tissue and let it dry. Then I want to take off some more. This part of the blue sail, you got a different shape to it, so I'm going to take off this extra paint up here. So I'm removing the paint off of this canvas with just re-wetting the area. Then I can go in and blot it off with a tissue. That's the easiest way. Just go in and re-wet the area. Re-wet the area with the paint on, and let it soak for a minute. And then just take a clean tissue and blot it. I'll let that dry before I put the color green behind that. What I'm doing is I'm fine-tuning a little bit of the design here. Make a little more accurate presentation. Again, re-wet that area. Take a tissue and blot it out. That's why this canvas is so nice to use, because it's very user-friendly. The only disadvantage is you don't want to remove some paint that you want to leave on there. So of course you can always repaint it back on. But the point is, you get a one-stroke shot basically once you wet it, then take it off. Okay, And I'm going to tune this up a little bit. This little canopy over here needs to be a little bit neater. And I'm going to make this a little bit shorter back here. So good. I was doing it plein air and just to capture the shapes and capture the scene. But then I come back to the studio and put a little more finishing touches to it. And where I knew working with canvas that I could remove some of the paint and get it back, put it back on again. But some of these areas here on these small windows, I'm going to redo those. I mean, this makes it so simple. Well, once you get it painted on, then you can take some of it off. And this is a lot easier than paper, because paper, the difference here is that the canvas board, the paint isn't absorbed into the fiber. It dries on top, so that makes it easy to remove after it's dry. So I can go in and retouch it up as many times as I want. Okay. And these windows down here need a better shape. So I'm correcting the small areas that I didn't capture on plein air. I got what I wanted. I got the colors and I got the shapes, but the small details like the windows and the lines and so forth is something that can be added in later. And I'm trying to only capture the essence here. I'm not trying to get all the detail, just enough detail to indicate what I saw. It's looking a little better already. Now down here, I want to take a little bit of this off. I'm going to use this quill brush with a lot of water in it. Just get a lot more water out, go down. I'm going to take a little bit of this blue off at the bottom here, just a little bit. Repaint that. You see how easy it is? Just as soon as I touch it with water, it automatically comes off. Either lighten it or you take it off with a tissue. Now this reflection of water now, I change the length of the body here of the sailboat, so I've got to lengthen a little bit of the shadow here, or reflection. The reflection here in the water. Okay. Clean up the mask a little bit here. Make it look a little better. So here I'm just I'm editing the brush strokes, editing the paint, the colors, taking off some of the colors that I don't like, reworking that area. So here I'm making these edges a lot sharper. This big long mask, amazing how tall it is, above the treetops. It's amazing, amazing. This little, there's a little sail out here on the front. This is the sail on the front of the sailboat, which is wrapped up on a mast. Okay, that's beginning to look better already, just the shapes I did there. Okay, I'll let that dry a little bit, then I'll go back and I'm going to add in some of the color around that. The colors I wiped out before, just by re-wetting the paint and then picking up with a clean tissue. So now I'm going to mix some lighter green. I'm going to go back in and apply put the yellow green back in. This is the grass. So I'm repainting that area that I wiped out. Cleaning up the edges. In this section around the we make a light green against that dark blue. That'll make that contrast nice right there. And now I change the size of this a little bit, so put that in. So repainting the sections that I took out by lifting. Very easy to lift with this color on canvas. And here I'm going back and repainting around this main mast. The main mast has the blue cover on it. It's a blue. It's probably a white sail, but it has a blue covering on it. When they park these sailboats, they cover them up in different colors. This one happens to be a blue one. Now what I'm going to do is I want to keep that light green around that dark blue. So what I want to do is I'm blending in with the background color I have here, background trees. Yeah, it's starting to shape up pretty good. Now I'm going to go back and put some of that color back in that I took out on the edge of this main mast. And one thing I've always learned in the past that I'm going to make this color a little bit darker here because I want here to be different. So I'll make that addition. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to darken up the windows a little bit because I wiped them out. So I'm going to darken them up just slightly and also reshape. Take a little bit of Payne's Gray here in my palette. Load the number 8 round brush from Silver Brush, and these windows up here are little portholes here, or have rounded edges on them. I'll reshape these a little better. Yep. And these windows up here aren't quite as dark, but they're different. I corrected the edges of them, so I go back in and repaint the edges. And there was a little circular one here in the middle. And this one over here. Just gives a little characteristic to this sailboat. This is the cabin. The main cabin. And let's see, also on the cover of the main cabin here, there's also a blue cover. So the colors on this boat are blue and white, and white of the boat, and the blue covers on the sail. That's its characteristic colors. So let me turn a little bit here so I get a better angle. So there's a dark blue covering on the roof of this cabin. It also has a it's plastic covering here on the windows, and I'll make a little shape here to define that. And I'll mix up a little lighter gray. Well, just water down the paint's gray. Just water it down. Give me a light color, a light value. And I'll continue this window section back here. Okay. And there's a little curve. There's a little form shape of the sailboat is a little bit. It doesn't go straight up and down. It goes a little bit under here in the bow. Bow kind of slopes in a little bit, so I'm going to make that indicate that little shadow there, showing that there's a depression or that goes under toward the water. I want to soften up those edges a little bit. Okay. And I want to dilute that and make this a soft edge. I don't want a hard edge. Make it a soft edge. So adding water to that wash, keep that edge soft. So it's a gradual the way the boat is just a little bit under the bow goes in, so it's a little bit has a little bit of shadow under there. Yeah, I can let that dry now because it's I want to put a little bit of darker shadow underneath the edge of the boat here, but I'll let that dry. Let me go here and clean up these edges some more. In the background is that green grass. Let's see, over here, a little bit darker, blue, a little darker green over here. So a little bit of hooker's green. A little hooker's green mixed in with a little bit of ultramarine blue. Now I'll take that same color, hooker's green and a little bit of blue, and I'm going to go up here and put a little darker value right here. So the colors behind this mast don't all of a sudden switch. It doesn't shift color very does quickly. It's behind the mast in front of it, but the tree behind is a little bit darker, so the mast will show up.
And this is a little bit darker over here. So there's just little minor details of clean up the edges. I think the only thing I left to do is to do the bottom of the boat where there's a little bit of shadow underneath it there. So I'll let that dry and I'll come back and do that, and then do maybe a couple little final touches. I'll mix up a little bit of this ultramarine blue, little blue color. Load up with the round brush, and I'm going to put that dark mark, it's a shadow underneath the bottom of the boat into the water. That's the shadow on the bottom of the boat. And now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add and the rest of it can be like a little reflection in the water there also. I'm not going to change that. Now, there's these masts there. I'm going to put a little bit of titanium white. I've got some titanium white here in the brush. And I'm going to paint in, there's the main mast, and of course this is the jib out here in the front. So it goes extensions on that. There's the mask here, which is behind this here, is a little extension here on the here mask. Now, last thing I want to do is I'm going to add in some rigging, and what I do there with it's just a one stroke thing. Load up the brush. Now, this is why they call this a rigger. This is a number 4 round from Holbein. It's a number 4 rigger, and I load that up with white paint. I make a nice sharp edge with that. Make a sharp one around it. Turn it. Make sure it's got a nice sharp edge. And now I know there's several lines here. We're going to take just 2 or 3 of them. But I'm going to come here. I'm going to come down here from the top. We'll go one more shot. Load up the brush. Round it off. Take a practice motion. Do another one back here. We got one more. We got one coming here to the back. I'll bring one more down here to the center. Okay. I'll clean those lines up a little bit. Once get them straightened out a little bit, then I can go back in with some paint, clean them up, make them straighter. At least I got a round one. At least I got a mark in there on the paper. I'll come back when it dries and straighten these lines out. Okay. You see the lines coming down from there. I'm going to draw a couple more just as a good example here. Now, I mix up the white, the titanium white. It's got to be pretty good consistency. This is just like on the palette where you have not too much water. I'm going to put one more in here, right next to the pole. So it's got a nice bead of paint on it, and I want to go straight up the pole, right next to the pole here. Okay. I'm going to put a little more white paint on the main mask itself. Have it stand out. You know, I may trim a little bit of that off with some green paint right after it dries. Just trim it down a little bit. I'm talking about that white line that's put in there. Now there was a along the edge of the waterway. I'll use the number 8 round. A little bit of burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, give me a dark brown. So there is a an edge here, a bulkhead here along the edge of the water. I'll put that in. And there are a few, lots of posts on here, so I'm going to put one in just as a representation. Some posts in here for tying up the boats, right there. And then in the stern, the continuation of that bulkhead on the ground, next to the water, on that side. Okay, that kind of breaks up the water and the green grass there. That little okay, I'm going to just let that one go. I may clean up a little bit of that white there. There would put some with the rigger. You have to be very careful about how much paint you put on it, and then how thin the streak is. Sometimes they get a little thicker. You have to cut them back down. Right, I'll go back here. Let it dry. I'll have a picture at the end. Okay, there's the finished painting, and what I did was this line here, I just put a little extra. Took the mixture of greens I had and just went along, just carefully, painted over the edges, smoothed it out a little bit to take away the width there. It's a little too wide, so I just narrowed it down just by putting a little layer of green next to that. So now by adding in the darks around the bottom here, and add a little more darks here in the tree trunks, and just touching up the green around the white lines. And I added in the mask here on this, and we touched up the windows. So, and we went around and cleaned up the bottom of the shadow pattern on the bottom of the ship, the boat. So I'm very pleased with this, and it was a lot of fun here painting this. And but this is some of the advantages of using the canvas board, because the watercolor can be painted on it, and then it can be lifted up very easily and then repainted. So that's one of the advantages of using canvas, and it's great for doing on plein air, because you can do a painting, and then you can take some of it off, go back and repaint it, and then redo it again over the same surface. So that's my demonstration today, and I'll be back again next week at Thursday at 2 o'clock. Bye for now.